She had planned it all. The dress, the venue, the flowers. She had written the vows herself. Late at night, in the apartment she had saved 2 years to afford, with a cup of chamomile tea going cold on the nightstand. She had imagined the moment 100 times. The slow walk down the aisle, her father's eyes glassing over as he took her hand. She had been waiting her whole life for that moment. And then, for the 4th time in 12 years, her father made the same request, the same quiet, unbending, inexplicable demand. And for the 4th time in 12 years, the man she loved walked away. Just like that. No ring, no altar, no future. Her name was Clara Hayes, and she was 41 years old, still single, and absolutely convinced that the one person responsible for her loneliness was the man who had raised her. The man who had read her bedtime stories. The man who had taught her to ride a bike in the parking lot of a Kroger in Columbus, Ohio. The man who, by every other measure in the world, had been nothing but devoted and gentle and good. Her father, Raymond Hayes, had never once raised his voice at her. He had never missed a school play, never forgotten a birthday, never let her go to bed without telling her he loved her. And yet, every single time she came home with a man she wanted to marry, Raymond Hayes would sit across from that man at the dining room table, fold his hands, look him in the eye, and say 5 words that ended everything. 5 words that had cost Clara 4 engagements and a lifetime of questions. He wanted a DNA test. Not a background check, not a financial statement, not even a simple sit-down conversation. A DNA test, and he would not explain why. Stay with us, because by the end of this story, you will understand why Raymond Hayes made that request. And when you do, you will never look at the word protection the same way again. There are 3 questions at the heart of this story. The first is, why would a father demand a DNA test from his daughter's future husband? Not once, not twice, but 4 separate times across more than a decade. The second is, what happens to a family when a secret is kept too long, and the silence meant to protect becomes a wound that will not close? And the third, the one that will sit with you long after this story ends, is when the truth finally comes out. Is it ever too late to understand the love that was always there? Raymond Hayes was not a criminal. He was not a cruel man. He was, by every account from neighbors and colleagues and old friends, one of the most quietly decent human beings anyone had ever met. So what was he hiding? And why did that secret cost his daughter everything she had ever wanted? Before we go any further, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. And if you have not already, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. Every story we tell here at Hidden Yet Heard Tales is a story that deserves to be heard. This one especially. Raymond Hayes was born in 1951 in Dayton, Ohio. The second of 4 children raised by a single mother named Lillian, who worked double shifts at a dry cleaning facility on 3rd Street. Dayton in the 50s and 60s was a particular kind of city. Proud, industrial, working class, and quietly complicated for a black family trying to build something solid in a country that did not always want them to. Lillian Hayes was not a woman who asked for much. She asked for clean hands before supper, homework done before television, and church on Sunday without complaint. She did not get everything she wanted, but she got her children through, and Raymond, the quiet one, the reader, the boy who would rather spend a Saturday in the public library than anywhere else in Dayton, made her proudest of all. Raymond graduated from Jefferson High School in 1969 and enrolled at Central State University on a partial scholarship. He studied library science, of all things, which made his mother laugh warmly, and his brothers tease him without mercy. But Raymond was serious about it. He believed, with the kind of quiet conviction that never needed to raise its voice, that stories kept people alive. That a library was not just a building, it was a place where forgotten people could be found again. He graduated in 1973, married a woman named Diane Whitfield in 1975, and took a position as head librarian at the Sunrise Children's Home in Columbus, Ohio, a state-run residential facility for orphaned and abandoned children. Sunrise Children's Home was not a warm place in the way that word is typically used. It was clean. It was orderly. It was run by well-meaning administrators who filled out the proper forms and attended the quarterly reviews and made sure the children were fed and clothed and educated. But it was not a place that held children the way a family holds a child. Raymond understood that from his first week. He saw it in the way the kids moved through the hallways, not like children who belonged somewhere, but like children who were waiting to find out whether they ever would. He started bringing better books, picture books with black children on the covers, adventure stories set in places like New Mexico and South Carolina and Alaska, stories about kids who looked like the kids at Sunrise and did extraordinary things. It was in his third year at Sunrise that Raymond began to fully understand the particular suffering that adoption, when handled without honesty or care, could inflict on a child. He saw it in the teenagers especially, the ones who had aged out of the warmth of the younger children's unit and now lived in that gray middle space between childhood and adulthood, between belonging to someone and belonging to no one. Several of them had been adopted as infants and then returned. Several others had been raised by families who never told them the truth about their origins, and had discovered that truth in ways that left permanent fractures in who they understood themselves to be. He read their files, not because it was his job. It was not. He read them because he could not stop himself, because these children deserved to have someone in that building who knew their names and their histories and the weight of what they were carrying. One file in particular stayed with him for the rest of his life. He never spoke of it publicly, but years later, when the truth about his own family finally came out, the people who knew him well said that everything he did, every quiet, painful, inexplicable decision he made, could be traced back to what he had read in that file. A file about two children, a sister and a brother, separated as infants, adopted by different families in different states, who had grown up, moved to the same city, fallen in love, and married each other. They had not known. How could they have known? There were no records, no photographs. No one had ever thought to connect those two names in those two files in that quiet office in Columbus. And when the truth was finally discovered, years into their marriage, the devastation was total. Raymond closed that file, sat very still at his desk for a long time, and made a decision. A decision he would spend the next 4 decades trying to honor, even when no one around him understood why, even when it cost him everything. Clara Hayes was born, officially, on March 14, 1983. That was the date on her birth certificate. That was the date they celebrated every year with yellow cake and cream cheese frosting, because it was Clara's favorite, and Raymond never once forgot. What Clara did not know, what she would not know for nearly 40 years, was that March 14, 1983, was not the day she came into the world. It was the day she came into their world. She had been placed with Raymond and Diane through a private adoption arrangement that Raymond had facilitated through his connections at Sunrise Children's Home. Her biological mother was a 22-year-old woman named Sandra who had found herself alone and unable to care for a child. There was no father listed on any document, no family information, no medical history, nothing that could tell Clara, if she ever went looking, who she had come from. Raymond had known all of this from the beginning. Diane had known most of it. They had agreed, in the early years, that they would tell Clara the truth when she was old enough, when the time was right. But there is a particular cruelty in that phrase, when the time is right, because for parents who love a child completely and fear that the truth will fracture something beautiful, the right time has a way of never arriving. Clara grew up believing she was Raymond and Diane's biological daughter. She grew up with Raymond's love of books and Diane's gift for laughter. She grew up in a house on Worthington Street in Columbus, Ohio, where the lights were always on and supper was always on the table, and her parents, whatever private burdens they carried, made sure that she never once questioned whether she was loved. She was, by every account, a happy child. She was curious and a little stubborn, and very funny in the dry, quiet way that her father was funny. She played the violin badly and loved it anyway. She collected old maps. She wanted, from the age of about 9, to be a journalist, and she became one, working for a regional newspaper in Columbus for nearly 15 years, covering stories about the people and places that other reporters tended to overlook. She was, in so many ways, Raymond Hayes made over. Which is perhaps why, when the breaking came, it broke the way it did. The first time it happened, Clara was 29 years old. His name was Marcus Webb, a structural engineer from Cleveland who had met Clara at a conference in Cincinnati and had driven to Columbus every weekend for 8 months before asking her to marry him. Marcus was steady and kind, and made Clara laugh in a way that felt like breathing. She had brought him home for Sunday dinner in January of 2012, full of hope, nervous in the way that people are nervous when they are about to offer someone they love to the scrutiny of the people they love most. Diane had made pot roast. Raymond had opened a bottle of red wine. It had been, for the first 3 hours, exactly what Clara had imagined. And then Raymond asked Marcus, quietly and without any visible distress, to provide a DNA sample before he would give his blessing to the marriage. He did not explain further than that. He said he had his reasons. He said it was important. He said he hoped Marcus would understand, though he acknowledged that it must seem unusual. Marcus had sat very still for a moment. Then he had looked at Clara. Clara had no idea what to say, because she had no idea what was happening. She looked at her mother, who was looking at the tablecloth. Raymond looked at no one in particular. He simply waited. Marcus left that night without finishing his wine. He called Clara the following morning and tried, gently, to make sense of what had happened. He was not angry, exactly. He was bewildered. Over the following 2 weeks, Clara and Marcus had conversation after conversation, each one circling the same impossible question: why? Clara went to her father and demanded an answer. Raymond told her only what he would tell her every time after that he had good reasons, that he could not share them, and that he was sorry. She told him he was ruining her life. He told her he was sorry about that too. By March, Marcus had ended the engagement. Not unkindly, but absolutely. James Caldwell was a high school principal from Westerville. He lasted longer than Marcus, right up until the night of the DNA request, when he stood up from the table so fast that his chair fell backward. He was not quiet about his feelings. He told Clara, on the way to his car, that he did not know what was wrong with her father, but that he was not about to submit to some kind of test, like a suspect in a criminal investigation. Clara stood on the porch in the November cold and watched his taillights disappear and felt something in her chest go very, very still. Derek Okafor was 38, and a pediatric nurse from Cincinnati, the most patient man Clara had ever been with, and the one who came closest to actually complying. He took 2 weeks to think about it. He told Clara he would do it, if she wanted him to. He asked her only one thing, that she get an answer from her father about why. When Clara came back from that conversation with her father empty-handed, with nothing but the same quiet apology she had heard 3 times before, Derek sat with her for a long time in their apartment. He held her hand. He told her he loved her. And then he said, very gently, that he did not think he could build a life on a foundation where a central question had no answer. He moved out in April. Clara did not speak to her father for 7 months. By the time Nathan Brooks came along, a documentary filmmaker from Columbus, irony of ironies, thoughtful and deliberate and deeply in love with Clara, she had begun to warn men early. She would bring it up on the 3rd or 4th date, in the same way someone might disclose a chronic illness or a complicated family situation. My father will ask you for a DNA test before he gives his blessing, she would say. I do not know why. He will not tell me. And if that is something you cannot live with, I understand. Nathan told her it was fine. He told her he could handle anything. He said it right up until the moment Raymond made the request. and then his face changed in a way that Clara had seen 3 times before, and she knew before he even spoke that she was going to be eating that same November cold alone again. 4 men, 12 years, and a father who kept saying he was sorry and kept asking anyway. And that is when Clara Hayes decided she had had enough. What Clara decided in the winter of 2024 was not impulsive. She had been building to it for years, quietly, methodically, the way journalists build cases. She had questions, and her father had answers he refused to give, and she had spent more than a decade accepting that arrangement. She was done accepting it. What she wanted was simple. She wanted to know what Raymond Hayes was hiding, and she wanted to know why it had cost her everything she had ever wanted. She had 2 tools available to her. The first was her journalism background and her ability to research. The second was her brother Daniel, who was 3 years younger than her and had maintained a closer relationship with Raymond than she had. She called Daniel in January. They had always been close in that particular way of siblings who have survived the same household, honest with each other in ways they were not always honest with themselves. She told him what she was planning to do. She was going to investigate their father. She was going to find out whatever he was hiding, whatever had driven him to make that request 4 times and destroy 4 of her relationships. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he said he thought it was a mistake. He said he had always suspected there was something their parents had not told them, some old family story their father was protecting. He said he thought Clara should just ask Raymond directly one more time and really push. Clara told him she had asked directly 4 times over 12 years. She was done pushing doors that would not open. She was going to find another way in. Clara spent 8 weeks researching. She was methodical and thorough in the way that a decade and a half of newspaper work makes a person methodical and thorough. She pulled Raymond's employment records from Sunrise Children's Home through public records requests. She went to the Franklin County Library and spent 3 afternoons on the microfiche readers, going through local newspaper archives from the late 1970s and early 1980s. She talked to 3 former employees of Sunrise who were still living in the Columbus area. She found out that Sunrise Children's Home had closed in 1989 following a state investigation into record-keeping irregularities. She found out that several adoption records from the facility had been sealed, lost, or improperly filed during that investigation. She found out, through one of the former employees, a woman named Gloria, who had worked in the administrative office and was now in her late 70s and living in Gahanna, that Raymond Hayes had been one of the people who flagged the record-keeping problems to the state, that he had gone to his supervisor first, been told to let it go, and then gone directly to the state auditor's office, that this had cost him his job at Sunrise, that Diane had been furious with him at the time because they had a new baby at home and the mortgage was 2 months behind. Clara sat in Gloria's living room and listened to all of this and felt the particular disorientation that comes when the story you have been telling yourself about someone begins to shift in a direction you were not prepared for. She did not find the whole truth, not yet. What she found was enough to confuse her, but not enough to stop her. She had uncovered a picture of her father as a principled man who had sacrificed his career to do what he believed was right. But she still did not know what the DNA tests were about. She still did not know what he was protecting. And so, in February of 2024, she made the decision that would set off the worst chapter of her family's life. She came to the house on a Saturday afternoon in late February. She had not called ahead. She had brought everything she had found: the employment records, the newspaper clippings, the notes from her conversation with Gloria. She sat down across from her parents, and she laid it all on the coffee table, and she said, very quietly, that she needed Raymond to tell her the truth. The whole truth. That she was 41 years old, and she had lost 4 men she had loved, and she deserved to know why. Raymond looked at the documents on the table. He looked at Diane. Something passed between them, a long, private look that Clara had seen before, but had never been able to read. And then Raymond said the thing he had said every other time, that he had his reasons, that he was sorry, that he could not explain. Clara lost her composure then. Not violently. She was not a violent person, but completely. She said things she had been holding for 12 years. She told her father that he was a controlling man dressed up as a gentle one. She told him that whatever secret he was guarding was not worth what it had cost her. She told him that she had spent her entire adult life trying to earn a blessing he was never going to give, and that she was done. She was done with the secret, and done with the apologies, and done, if he continued to refuse to tell her the truth, with him. Diane was crying. Daniel, who had arrived 20 minutes into the confrontation, was standing in the kitchen doorway looking like a man watching a car accident he did not know how to stop. Raymond sat in his armchair and took everything his daughter said and said nothing in return. His face was not cold. It was something much harder to look at than cold. It was the face of a man absorbing a punishment he believed he deserved. Clara left. She drove home in the rain. She did not speak to her parents for 3 weeks. And then, in the 3rd week of March, she called a lawyer. She had decided to take legal action to have any sealed records related to Sunrise Children's Home unsealed. She believed, based on everything she had found, that whatever Raymond was hiding was connected to those records. She believed she had a right to know. She may well have been right about that, but the method she chose, adversarial, legal, public, sent a tremor through the family that would not stop shaking until it had brought everything down. Diane had a cardiac episode in April, mild but frightening. Daniel stopped speaking to Clara for 2 months, and Raymond Hayes, who had kept this secret for 40 years in an effort to protect one person, sat in the cardiologist's waiting room watching his wife be wheeled in on a gurney, and finally accepted that the protection had run out of time. Raymond Hayes called Clara on a Tuesday evening in April, 3 days after Diane was discharged from Ohio State Wexner Medical Center. His voice on the phone was different from any version of it Clara had heard before. Not shaken, Raymond was not a man who shook, but stripped of something, some protective layer that had always been there. He said he needed her to come to the house. He said he needed to talk to her and Daniel both. He said he was going to tell them everything. Clara drove to Worthington Street with her heart in her throat. Daniel was already there when she arrived, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee he was not drinking. Diane was in the living room in the recliner the hospital had recommended, a blanket across her knees, looking out the window. Raymond was at the dining room table, the same table where he had made the request 4 times, the same table where Clara had laid down her evidence 2 months earlier. He had a folder in front of him, old, the corners bent with age. He told them that Clara had been adopted. He told them that he and Diane had arranged the adoption through his connections at Sunrise Children's Home in 1983, when Clara was 3 weeks old. He told them that her biological mother was a young woman who had been alone and unable to care for her, and who had since passed away. He told them that there were no records of Clara's biological father, none that had survived the facility's closure, at any rate. And then he opened the folder and took out a document that was 22 years old, and he told them about the case that had never left him, the sister and the brother, raised in different families, who had married each other. He spoke for a long time. The kitchen was very quiet. Diane did not say anything from the living room, because Diane had known this conversation was coming for 40 years, and had spent 40 years dreading it, and was now, perhaps, only relieved that it was finally here. Raymond explained that when he had made the adoption arrangement, he had understood, or believed he understood, that there might be other children from the same biological mother, that the records at Sunrise were incomplete, that if Clara had biological siblings she never knew about, and if those siblings ended up in the same city, the same social world, the same orbit, then the possibility, however remote, however statistically unlikely, was real. He could not bear to let that possibility go unexamined. He could not tell Clara why without telling her the truth about her adoption, and he had not, in 40 years, been able to bring himself to do that. Clara sat across from her father for a very long time. Daniel had his face in his hands. Raymond looked at his daughter and said the thing he had been holding back longer than anything else. longer than the secret, longer than the apology. He said he was sorry, not for what he had done, for what she had suffered because of it. He said he had told himself, all those years, that if one of those DNA tests had come back with a red flag, if any of those men had turned out to share Clara's biological ancestry, she would have understood then. She would have known then that he had been trying to save her from something unbearable. He had not anticipated, or perhaps had not allowed himself to fully reckon with, how unbearable the protection itself would become. There was one more thing in Raymond's folder. One thing he had not yet shared. A year earlier, he had submitted Clara's DNA, taken quietly, without her knowledge, from a hairbrush, to a private ancestry service. He had done it not because he intended to use the result without telling her, but because he needed to know, after all these years, whether his caution had been warranted. Whether there were, in fact, biological relatives of Clara's in the world who might ever enter her life. He needed to know whether the vigilance had meant something, or whether he had destroyed his daughter's chances at love for nothing. He told Clara and Daniel this, and waited for her reaction. The reaction he had been dreading was fury. Clara was not furious. She was something beyond fury, something quieter and more complete. She asked him what the test had found. The test had found a partial match. Not a sibling, not a half-sibling, a first cousin, a man named Aaron Griffith, 44 years old, living in Pittsburgh, who had submitted his own DNA to the same service 2 years earlier, searching for biological relatives after being adopted from the Ohio foster care system as an infant. Aaron Griffith had, it turned out, the same biological mother as Clara. He had been born in 1980, 3 years before her. He had grown up in Pittsburgh, studied accounting, and now worked for a mid-sized financial firm in Shadyside. He had a wife and 2 children. He had been looking for biological family for years. He had no children from Clara's side, had, in fact, known almost nothing about where he had come from. This did not mean Raymond's fear had been groundless. The same biological mother, and no records of the father, meant the landscape of possibility had always been wider than comfortable. But it did mean that the specific tragedy Raymond had been guarding against, Clara unknowingly falling in love with a biological sibling, had, by all available evidence, not materialized. Not in Marcus Webb, not in James Caldwell, not in Derek Okafor, not in Nathan Brooks. Raymond had spent 40 years protecting Clara from a danger that had not come, and in doing so, he had created a different kind of damage entirely. Clara Hayes did not speak for 2 hours after Raymond finished. Daniel made fresh coffee. Diane fell asleep in the recliner. The April light went out of the kitchen window, and Raymond sat at the table and waited with the patience of a man who understood that this waiting was the least he could do. When Clara finally spoke, she did not say the things Raymond might have expected. She did not say that she forgave him. She was not ready to say that yet, and she was too honest a person to say something she could not yet mean. She said only that she needed to leave, that she needed some time, that she would be in touch. In the months that followed, Clara did several things. She contacted Aaron Griffith in Pittsburgh, and, after a careful and tentative exchange of messages, met him for coffee on a Saturday in June. He was, she reported to Daniel afterward, a gentle and soft-spoken man who looked nothing like her, which she found both strange and reassuring. They exchanged medical history, which was the practical matter that most urgently needed to be addressed. They agreed to stay in contact. It was not an immediate bond. It was something more careful and more adult than that. 2 people in their 40s discovering that they share an origin and deciding, quietly, to see what they might make of that knowledge. She reached out to Nathan Brooks, with whom she had remained on friendly terms. She did not ask him to come back. She told him only that she finally had an answer to the question that had never had one. He listened. He said he was sorry that she had carried that for so long. There was a long silence on the phone, and then he said he would like to have coffee sometime. Clara said that would be all right. She returned to her parents' house in July, not for a dramatic reconciliation. Real families do not work that way, and Clara was too grounded in the real to expect otherwise. She came for Sunday dinner. Diane made pot roast, because that is what Diane made when she needed things to feel like they could go back to normal, even when they could not quite. Raymond was in the kitchen when Clara arrived, and they stood next to each other for a moment without speaking. And then Raymond put his hand on her shoulder the way he had always put his hand on her shoulder, with the particular gentleness of a man who had known from the beginning that she was not his by blood and had loved her completely anyway. And Clara did not pull away. She would spend a long time working through what had happened, not just between her and her father, but within herself. She had spent 12 years telling a story in which Raymond Hayes was the villain, and the truth had not made him a villain at all. It had made him something more complicated and more painful to reconcile. A man who had loved her so completely that he had been willing to watch her hate him rather than risk telling her a truth that might have hurt her more. Whether that had been the right call was a question Clara turned over for a long time. She thought perhaps it would have been better if he had told her about the adoption early. She thought the truth, however painful, rarely does as much damage as the silence meant to protect us from it. She thought that Raymond had been so haunted by the story of those two lost children that he had never been able to see clearly how much his own child needed the truth more than she needed the protection. But she also thought, on the nights when the anger had quieted down enough to let something else in, that her father had sat in that library in Columbus for years, reading the files of children no one was coming for, and had decided that this one child, this one little girl, was going to have someone in her corner so completely that he would shoulder any burden to keep her safe, even the burden of her hatred. That is the thing about love that has not learned to speak clearly. It can look, from the outside, exactly like the thing you are most afraid of. Raymond Hayes spent 40 years carrying a secret he believed would shatter the person he loved most. Clara Hayes spent 12 years carrying the damage of that secret without knowing what it was. Neither of them was entirely wrong. Neither of them was entirely right. And the truth, when it finally came, did not arrive the way truths in stories are supposed to arrive, cleanly, with resolution and healing already built in. It arrived the way most truths arrive in real life, slowly, incompletely, with the particular ache of things that cannot be undone. But here is what we believe, here at Hidden Yet Heard Tales, and we would not be doing what we do if we did not believe it. Every story deserves to be told. Every voice deserves to be heard. Even the ones that are difficult, even the ones where no one is purely a hero and no one is purely a villain, and the whole complicated, heartbreaking, very human truth sits somewhere in between. Clara and Raymond are rebuilding. It is slow, it is not always comfortable, but it is happening. Diane is doing well. Daniel checks in on everyone too much, which is what younger siblings do. And Aaron Griffith, in Pittsburgh, now has a biological cousin he meets for coffee when she is passing through, which is more family than he had before, and enough, for now, to matter. We want to ask you something before you go, and we want you to really sit with it. If you had been in Clara's position, watching relationship after relationship end because of a request your father refused to explain, would you have done what she did? Would you have looked for answers on your own, even if you risked opening something that could not be closed again? Or would you have found a way to live with the mystery, the way some families do, because some silences, we tell ourselves, are there for a reason? And here is the harder question. If you had been Raymond, if you had known something that might save someone you loved from an unbearable outcome, but telling them would require you to first deliver a different kind of pain, what would you have done? There is no clean answer. That is why we tell these stories, because the questions that do not have clean answers are the ones that matter most. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you want to call someone you love and say something you have been putting off saying, leave a comment below. Tell us what you would have done. Tell us what part of this story stayed with you. Tell us where in the world you are watching from. And if you have a story of your own, a family secret, a hidden truth, a silence that lasted too long, you belong here. This channel was built for stories exactly like yours. Subscribe to Hidden Yet Heard Tales. Turn on your notifications. because the next story we have coming is one that will make you question everything you think you know about loyalty, about justice, and about what people are willing to do for the ones they love. You are going to want to be here when it drops.